Welcome to another G4 Guitar Teacher Network Hangout. What we're going to do today is talk to some of the guys in the US. It's late night over there, or evening to late night, depending on where you are in the US. What I'm going to do is the normal format here, ask the guys a question each, see if we can work through those questions, and then let the discussion roll from there. So what I'll do, Ken, because I think this is your first hangout with, not with you and I, we've had a hangout just generally as a group. So have you got a question that you want to ask first?
I got a list of things that I'm hoping to talk about. Let's see here. I don't have a specific question at this moment, but yeah, I do have some things that I'd like to bring out for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you give me one of those things on your list, and then we'll try and see if we can pull a question out of, or we'll take it from there.
I've just signed up for Thumbtack. I know David Mins has been using it, and he's been talking highly of it. I was wondering if some other people have had any experience with it as well. If they have, what can I expect? And that's pretty much it.
Great. All right. Well, you're in good company because I know Monty's a fan of Thumbtack and he's used it quite a bit to great success. So I'll be able to get you to answer that one, Monty, in a minute. So what I'll do, just so you know, I'll ask you all each question first, then we'll proceed through each of the questions, and then I'll, if there's more time, we'll come back and you get a second question. So Monty, what would you like to talk about today? What's your question? We don't seem to have any sound from you there, Monty. I can see the mouth moving.
How about that?
That's better. Good.
It's like the Pink Floyd song, "Your lips move, but I can't hear what you're saying."
Exactly.
So, yeah, I didn't have anything in particular. Just wanted to listen to what you guys had to say, and I learned that way. Just hearing you guys articulate everything gives me different ways to, sell
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if anything comes to mind in the process, feel free to jump in with a question. Roger, have you got any particular questions that you want to throw up today?
Not really, just more of a concern in the size of the town I'm in. I think you had mentioned yesterday something about, once you get about 5,000 flyers out there, things will start to roll. There aren't even 5,000 people in the town I live in, so I'm just kind of curious, what kind of numbers. I know we talked about this on the phone a few months back, but
okay. Yeah, we need to address that because it's important, and you might have to look at other options such as online. You might even, there are different things I'll talk about, but there are plenty of options for you, but you do need to think a bit differently to those guys who are operating in a populated area. So.
Right.
Okay, so let's just start off with the Thumbtack, Ken's question. I'm going to go let Monty jump in on this one because I don't know a lot about Thumbtack because it's not, we don't use it in Australia. I know basically what it does, and I signed up for it and put a location in the US just to see how good it went, and I found I got plenty of inquiries, but I didn't really know what to do with it from there. So Monty, over to you.
Well, you pay for the quotes. It's like $3 for a quote, and that's the only commission that they take, so that's kind of nice. I've gotten maybe 2 students a month from Thumbtack.
Yep.
So,
That's
and I probably pay like $35 a month.
Okay.
For all those quotes.
That when you get when you get inquiries, you answer those inquiries, and you might get a couple of bites out of them. How many inquiries would you get a month? Because you said you get 2 students out of that. So how many inquiries did you get a month in order to get those 2 students?
Sometimes I'll get multiple a day.
Really?
I mean, I am in Pittsburgh, so it's pretty heavily populated.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the other members will say they're too far away, and I get a lot of that too. I get a lot of people that are 30 minutes away or more, so I just don't I won't send them a quote. I'll kind of map quest it and decide would I want to make that drive if I was taking lessons. And kind of a judgment call.
I mean, I would think that when somebody was doing an inquiry, they would take a look at the address and say, "Oh, this guy is like such, so far away that I don't even want to ask." Isn't that like filtered out in some way?
Yeah, they ask you how far you want to drive, and if they don't specify, it'll say they're willing to drive 25 miles.
I see.
Or if they specify, sometimes they'll say 15 or 5, and I usually don't even bother with the ones that say 5 miles.
Right, right. I see.
They usually don't want to.
Yeah, so I just signed up for it today, so I don't know exactly what to expect. My the town that I live in is about 1,000 people. I think it is about 100,000 people, maybe. I think Pittsburgh is probably like close to a million or two. I not know. I mean, it's not no small town.
It's a top 20 market.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks. I just wanted to figure out what I could expect from Thumbtack. It's actually kind of encouraging because if you actually do get a number of inquiries, eventually something's going to pan out. So yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be good. What's your competition like out there? Are there other guitar teachers that are using?
It's cutthroat.
It's cutthroat.
It is cutthroat. I mean, after I think 5 quotes, they close it.
Oh yeah.
So you want to get that quote out there as soon as you get it. I mean, they'll give you notifications through text and email, and try to get those quotes out as soon as you can. Because once they get past, I think 5, then it's closed. Then you can't quote them.
I see.
It's just a Thumbtack rule. I don't know why. I mean, it usually doesn't happen, but sometimes it does.
I see.
And plus, people are appreciative, for a quick response.
So would you say you got like about 20 other guitarists that are teaching that you're up against?
I'm sure. Yeah. Now, what's nice is I have probably 10 reviews. And I've been hired, 12 times since December. So, that helps.
So the ball is rolling a little bit faster as the months go on because now you're getting more people that are actually going to you for lessons. So have you seen that type of increase in the number of inquiries or number of students that you would get? Just because of the amount of reviews you've had.
Yeah, reviews, my status on there. I actually I got ranked #1 music teacher in Pittsburgh. Just like a couple weeks ago. So it's kind of cool. I'm supposed to get a certificate in the mail, so I'm gonna take a picture, post it on Facebook, and show off.
Right. Yeah. Let me know what they made their certificate out of, like a plain old computer paper. They tore off the sides of the.
That's right. Hopefully it's old parchment and real fancy and hieroglyphics.
And not crooked on the printing the paper. But yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah, that's
surely
awesome.
Surely they'll do a billboard for you, Monty.
Yeah.
Center of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's #1 music teacher.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not guitar teacher, just music teacher. Because I do teach some other instruments. I'm still doing piano and stuff. Waiting for this G4 thing to totally take over. So.
It will. It'll kick in, and you won't be ready for it. It'll just overwhelm you all of a sudden. They'll come from everywhere.
Yeah, can't wait. So, that's pretty much Thumbtack in a nutshell. I mean, it's just like, hey, do you want to, you keep on. It's kind of like fishing with $3 bills, in a way. Just got to be real patient, and you'll get a bite.
Are the students that you're getting, are they a particular age group, any particulars about them? You find certain kinds of people?
They have different groups. There's adults, and then they have another category for adolescents.
Right,
There's
okay.
probably like 4 categories, maybe young kids and then teenagers and then young adults and then older adults.
So are you getting? Is there an area that you're getting mostly? Are they mostly adults? Are they mostly teens? Are they mostly young kids?
Not
It's just an even
probably
spread?
maybe young kids and then it's all of them really.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Get all
So it's a
ages.
good even spread. So where do people find Thumbtack? How do they come across it?
It's right online. You Google guitar lessons and then Thumbtack is one of the.
Well,
maybe 10.
why would someone even Google Thumbtack? What would make
It
them
just
want to
says,
Google?
this is where the best music teachers in Pittsburgh are.
Okay, so that's a given in Pittsburgh that if you want to find a good music teacher, you go to Thumbtack.
Well, if like I'll search guitar lessons in Pittsburgh and then just see what comes up, and that's one of the.
So
one
it
of the
comes
things
up
comes
a lot in Google searches.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Mhm.
Right. Okay. Good.
So it's
That's-
popular. I don't know why. I mean, but it works for me. I still haven't delivered a flyer yet. I'm still working out the kinks on that. But it's
Yeah.
good for the lazy G4 guitar teacher.
I think the lazy teacher full stop by the sounds of it.
I know. I should be
But
punished.
look, it's as Bill Gates once said, if you want to get a job done, the quickest, cheapest, easiest, fastest, get a lazy person to do it. Because I'll always find the easiest, cheapest, quickest way to get it done.
Yep. So
There
you go.
Okay, that's great. Did you have anything else, Ken, you wanted to throw in there?
Well, I just did a search, Google search, guitar lessons Oxnard, and after the paid ads, we have Thumbtack. So that's pretty good. So we got a paid ad at the top, and most people don't pay attention to the paid ads, honestly. And that's takelessons.com. Next thing down is guitar lessons. Fun for all ages and styles and levels, it's a paid ad. And then you got this knucklehead that's called Butner, guitar lessons. So I can ignore that guy with a last name like Butner. Who's gonna go to him for lessons?
You'd be surprised. I might sign up.
All types. All
But,
types. Yeah.
I saw the Take Lessons, and they take a commission,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't go with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they take a perpetual commission.
Mm-hmm.
So Thumbtack, they just do the $3. That's it, and then the rest of the money's yours.
Yeah,
So.
that's cool. Yeah. So basically, after all the paid ads, right there at the top is Thumbtack.
Yep.
Second after that would be Yelp, and then you have Craigslist is there too, and that is that's my ex-wife. That's funny. She's got a Craigslist ad, and that's her.
Cool.
So, yeah.
I don't think
Where
I've gotten a student from Craigslist for a year.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's almost a waste of time.
Yeah, well, basically with Craigslist, if you repost every 3 days, then it's at the top. But then the problem is that now you're getting a whole bunch of spam. So if you can stand the spam, then keep on going. I suppose maybe the next thing I would have, since I can see Thumbtack is at the very top, and that's good. But my website is still not on the radar for the first page, and so that's probably something that I need to take care of here and try to figure out how to get my website up to the top, or at least on the first page, for crying out loud.
Where are you appearing? What page? Do you know?
I'm looking at page 1. I'll go to page 2.
Yeah. Because it depends on the area. If you're in a populated area, it's going to, sometimes getting on page 1 is impossible, just because of the amount of competition. If you look at, Roger and Bishop, page 1 is not going to be a problem. But if you look at, you're talking
I'm not even
Los Angeles. it's a big thing to get on page 1. So.
Yeah, I'm not even on page 2.
Yeah, so
I'm on page 3.
Okay, for me, you're appearing on page 2, towards the top of page 2, but that's probably because you're in Oxnard, which means there's more. It's just a different viewpoint, and also remember that every search is personal now. So you're looking at what matters to you, and because you live in Oxnard, Google are putting a lot of stuff up there you probably searched for or had some relationship to, even though you don't even realize. Sometimes it can be just something that they've worked out on an algorithm that you like, Mexican restaurants or something. So you tend to get more of them appear. You'll notice that with Facebook as well. The kind of ads that you're interested in are going to come up more often. So keep that in mind. Whereas, I don't search Oxnard. It's not. I don't search for obviously business in Oxnard of all different types. When I type Oxnard, it only knows me as guitar lessons. So.
You're not going to die on us, are you?
No, I hope not. It's just a frog in the throat. Yep.
I just looked, and we got Take Lessons, Thumbtack, Take Lessons, some other company, and then my website. So I'm like number 7 on the search.
Okay, so you've ended up at number 7. That's great.
Yeah.
And that's the G4 site that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so you'll probably get to page 1. It'll probably happen, but it's going to see again. It's all also revolving around a personal interest here. So even though it appears on page 1, in this situation for Monty, it doesn't mean that it's appearing for page 1 for the guy living in the apartment next door.
I see.
Okay. Because it knows Monty has an interest in music. Google have these algorithms. They just know more about him. In that, or they know different things about him compared to the guy next door. If you really want to test it, go to a library or go to a public domain somewhere and start looking. That'll give you a better idea.
Got it. Okay, cool.
It's still, you're still going to have people who've got an interest in guitar. It's more likely to come up for them. But you can see the way that we've done it. The design of it is such that your listing, for instance, says guitar lessons Oxnard. So that's the number 1 thing people will start to search for. The next is guitar teacher. Right, but guitar lessons is number 1, guitar teacher is number 2. So that's why having a website and a heading that match, guitar lessons Oxnard is the heading, and guitar lessons Oxnard is the website. And then having enough of the description, because for most people they'll get 2 lines of description there, and that's where it's really important that it says exactly what we want to say. So in your case, it's G4 Guitar Oxnard, California provides guitar lessons using a structured method of learning, suitable for all ages, ranging from children to adults of all levels. So that's what I can see there. So that gives me, and this is important because when people scan through here, their eyes are actually already tuned in to certain things. So when you look across a page, you will notice certain things more than others, depending on what your brain is sort of filtered for. So, for instance, if there was your name there, Kenneth, you're gonna actually attract to Kenneth. Did you know that they actually did a study that showed that the most popular name among dentists is Dennis? Is that a coincidence? No. They found it in a whole bunch. They did a whole bunch of studies in this, and they found that we're actually more drawn to our own names. So when we see things that relate to our name, especially if you have a unique name, because you won't see that often. So people are drawn to certain things. Our brains are filtering machines. We can't take in the massive amount of information coming in all around us all the time. So we're constantly filtering out things. And that's the old, thing of looking in the fridge for, the can of something, and there it is right in front of you, and you can't see it. It's just you've got a blank spot for it. So because of the filtering that goes on in our brain, this is where making search more personal and identifying, and that's really what Google does. in Facebook, and they look at your patterns, and they look at what the kind of things you look at, and then they start to give you more of those, and it leads more towards that. So, but the next generation of search is coming too, by the way. I don't know if you know much about all that, but it's called DeepMind, and it's been done in California, of course, in Silicon Valley. Yeah, it's called DeepMind. It's originally from Vancouver, I think, from Canada, and it's a form of artificial intelligence. And what's going to happen is that they're working on this where it's going to actually be working out not just what you're searching for, but predictably what you're thinking and where your thoughts are heading towards. So yeah, it's gonna get scary.
Yeah, but I just got the images in my head of the Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger coming in from an electrical storm, and then he starts, trying to kill John Connor. I just got all that in my head at this moment. That's why.
Okay. Yes.
Cyberdyne.
Yeah, Cyberdyne. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's coming. They just signed a big petition, or many of the top guys, 100 or 150 of the top sort of IT scientists and so forth, saying that this cannot be used for weapons and military and all that sort of thing. So they're worried. So yeah, it's you're talking. There's as with everything, there's enormous power, and it's like nuclear energy. The atomic bomb. We can use it to wipe everybody out, or we can use it to do other things. Like save people with cancer and so forth. So
exactly. Tools are meant to be used, and sometimes people use it for evil. So,
they do. There's always a choice there, and you're always going to find people on both sides of the choice. So.
Yep.
Okay, that's great. So thank you, Monty. Look, I think Thumbtack in populated areas, it sounds good. I know for a couple of other guys, I know, I've spoken to one or two other teachers about Thumbtack who live in less populated areas, and one of them quite particularly said he's had nothing from it. He sort of says, "Oh, don't waste your time on it," blah blah blah. But he's talking from
that.
That I think Don. It was Don. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he lives in a small area, so the population's not great. So yeah, it's not going to work for him there. Especially if he's only trialed it for a small thing. It's again like flyers. Like I get guys who go out and do 2,000 or 3,000 flyers, and they say, "Hey, it doesn't work. I just did 3,000 of these things. I spent hours and hours and hours walking around. I don't see have a single phone call." And my answer is that it's not always going to work straight away, but it averages out over time. And the thing about flyer marketing, the reason most independent guys give up is simply because they don't get the response they're looking for the amount of time and energy they put in early on. But it's not it's an equation based on when you start to do stats and run numbers. And this is the difference between very successful business people, is that they look at stats over a long term, not a short term. That's why they will invest. Who would invest in building a restaurant that costs $200,000-$300,000 to build a typical restaurant, and all that equipment and all that stuff, with the idea that you're going to make some money? Only a very experienced restaurateur would be able to do that, to take that kind of risk. But it's just, for them, it's not a risk. If you think of some of the top restaurateurs, when they open a restaurant, there's not a risk there, because they know if they do all the things that they need to do, they do it right, their restaurant is a 95% chance of being a success.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So it's knowing that it's the whole thing about there's power in information. And that's really what the G4 thing is about, is that we're sharing information here. It's very easy for someone to write off Thumbtack, for example. But then when I hear an example from David Mins and then from Monty and a couple of other guys I've spoken to who are having success with it, I will not write it off. I know that it's working in certain situations, but I also know in some situations it may not be working. But now the question is, what are the differences? What are they doing? Who's doing something differently? So if I can open 5 schools, if I can get thousands of inquiries over a short period, couple of years, and do what I did, that means that it's doable anywhere. It's you might say that it was me, but it wasn't. It's my knowledge, my information that does it. And if you take that same information, and that's really what guys like Ray Kroc from McDonald's figured out. It's what lots of very successful businesses have figured out. Once you know the formula, the formula is generally repeatable, and that's why ever since the Beatles, and even before the Beatles, but ever since the Beatles, how many pop boy band groups have there been? Thousands and thousands of them, right? And so many successful ones that have actually sold more records than the Beatles, made more money than the Beatles, have had more success in a shorter period of time. We've got these boy bands come out now, like One Direction, who, you know, are nobody, and then 6 months later, suddenly millions of young kids think they're the best thing ever. Like, how does that happen so quickly? It's because they know the formula. You know, and that really is it. And when you go into, that's why some of those shows, if you watch like The Prophet and Gordon Ramsay and those kind of shows, they're really good, because what they do is they show you somebody who knows the formula with someone who doesn't know the formula. And the person who knows the formula is really saying, you know, just follow the formula, you know, that's all you have to do. And they're going, but I don't think the formula works, or I want to do it my way, or I think that this should be here, or I'm really attached to having my dog in the restaurant, you know. He might be smelly and dirty, but, you know, he's part of the furniture. All these crazy things that go on in businesses, and you just look at it and you just, you know, you shake your head. But people are often very emotionally attached to their businesses, and there's often a lot of kind of, you know, complicated relationships going on within the business as well, amongst staff, etc. So it's really worth thinking about from this perspective of any marketing. If someone is succeeding with it, it means that they know something that you don't. And it's about finding out, what do they know that I don't? Never rule anything out. Never say never. Just look at it and go, well, especially if someone's succeeding with it, there must be something in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Sorry, Mikey.
Yeah, well, when you start getting into that Thumbtack, I guess the main thing that's helped me is, you know, all the reviews, you know, probably over 10, and all the hires, of course. Yeah, you don't have those yet. And then just trying to start up a conversation with the people you quote. Maybe even a day after or 3 days later, I ask them, you know, what they thought of the G4 guitar method, and just try to get them to talk back and reply.
Yep.
Don't just throw a quote out there and just wait, because a lot of people are antisocial. You know, they refuse to call, but they'll message me maybe 2 or 3 times saying, oh, I've been thinking about guitar, but, you know, let me get such and such squared away, and then I'll be ready. But I always tell them, you know, that's great that you want to play guitar. Just give me a call, and or leave your number and a good time to call, and we'll set it up. And a lot of times it's just crickets, you know. But you know, once they do call, they're more serious.
Yeah, and you're building on, you know, it's a compound effect, and this is the whole thing with business, is that you're building on things, that it's constantly this built, and as you build on things, they're like platforms. Each thing builds on itself. It's like we go back to the original platform of the internet, right? The internet is a platform, and then when the internet first came out, most people thought, "What's this? There's nothing here. You know, what am I going to do?" You know, and then they built the email platform, and that gave people a reason, right, to use the internet. So the email platform, it took the internet to another level, right? It suddenly became something that people found useful, and then, you know, pretty well wiped out the postal service as we know it, as the traditional letter. You know, the postal services are now scrambling all around the world to deliver parcels and compete with, you know, all the kind of freight companies. But then, you know, sorry, and then something else came in to bring in, you know, to take the internet to another level. I hate to say it, but it's things like porn, and you know, any kind of thing that, you know, even online gambling, even anywhere people can share digital information started to come online, and they're the kind of things that made the internet start to really grow. And then came the next level, which was doing business online, actually selling things. And I remember, you know, you guys we're all old enough here to remember when people would not trust their credit card to online. No way! What are you crazy? Put your credit card online and someone will take it and just go and, you know, spend it. but here we are. I don't think there's anyone that I know that hasn't made a purchase online, that hasn't given their credit card number up. So the platforms build on platforms. Then video came, YouTube came, and Skype came, and Hangouts came, and it's just going to keep building and building on itself until now the online world is almost, for a lot of people, they spend as much time online as they do offline. I mean, seriously, we're talking about the online generation now. We're talking about kids who spend most of their time on iPads, iPhones, screens. That's where they are spending, a lot of their life. So this is how your business works. Your business builds on platforms. So when you first start your business, and in this case, G4 is a platform, Thumbtack is a platform, and your first students, if we use the example here, what I can see already happening for Monty on Thumbtack is that he's getting students and people who are going through the system to put testimonials about him. And so when other people come on there and they look and go, well, this guy's got 10 or 20 positive comments, this guy's got nothing, I think I'll go with this guy. And it doesn't necessarily mean Monty's any better. He's got a lot more credibility there. So people start believing, and that's what happens, is more and more people start going towards him. He gets more and more, and then suddenly he's number one, and nobody can knock him off his perch.
Yep. The website definitely helps too.
Yeah. Having a good website, it's so and that's why I've really put a lot of time into these, finding out what the best websites are going to be for us and these new websites. And that's what I've been really spending about the last year doing, is researching, what are going to be the best for us, and testing and finding out what works. So because they are really critical, everything from the name to the way it's set up to when people land on your website. I look at websites at least a couple of weeks from different guitar teachers, because one of my strategies is to ask them to show me their website, and then I have a look at it, and most of their websites are shockingly bad. But it's not their fault. It's just that they haven't got the experience. They don't know, and they can't understand why their websites aren't working, and why nobody is responding to them. So your online business today is just as important as your offline business, and the way that it, going through Thumbtack and the way everything looks and the kind of things you say. So I think one of the hard transitions that we're making today, I know it's been a challenge for me, is communicating through emails and through text messages. And sometimes, all this thing, people have got, 2 milliseconds of attention, where you've got to capture them in a headline from your email. You think about every email you send out. Do you put a headline on your email that captures their attention? I'm not just talking, for marketing purposes. I'm talking about your students you have now. When you send them an email saying, your fees haven't been paid, or can I change your time? Whatever. You need to even think about, in those cases, your titles and what you're putting, to see that they respond better. So, all right. So it's a real science, and that's why the whole network concept. And by the way, networks like G4 will become more and more commonplace. And I kind of think of us as the first in our space, as far as guitar teachers are concerned. But it's happening in lots of other spaces as well. But what you'll see is more and more people will cluster into groups, as they already are across Facebook and so forth. But the idea is that it becomes very difficult to compete as a one-off guitar teacher operating in somewhere. It's very, very difficult. And as people come more and more online, guitar lessons will become more online. People will be less and less learning from a teacher in person in the future, and they'll go more to learning from already 90%, over 90% is my guess, of people learning guitar are probably sitting in front of a YouTube video, not actually learning from a teacher anymore. And so, but it doesn't mean they don't want to learn from a teacher. They still want to learn from teachers. They just don't want to go out in the rain. They just don't want to bother going, through whatever it takes to go and find a teacher and all that. So it's all about today making it easy. If you can make it easy for them, imagine them being on a YouTube video and then be able to click, hey, would you like someone to help you with this song? They click on it, bang, and there you are. Okay, hey dude, how are you? And they could join something like a subscription, where they might join your subscription, paying whatever a month. They can watch the YouTube videos that you make and whatever. So they join a program, but then they click on that video to actually speak to you. And you could have some free ones, you could have some paid ones. And so I'm just giving one idea, but there's this whole thing of people, the online, offline experience is going to start to really integrate. And that's where, again, the network of G4, the reputation that we're trying to build here, is we won't be all things to all people. We will only be some things to some people. And the idea is that by being a group and a larger group and a network, that we can actually become more known. So when people think, where do I go for guitar lessons, then they can go to us. And it's the same with Thumbtack. Where do I go to find a teacher in Pittsburgh? I go to Thumbtack, because Thumbtack has built that reputation through networking. Where do I get a taxi? I'll ring Uber. What if I want to stay somewhere? I'll go through Airbnb. So these guys, what they're doing is they're really a network, because Uber don't own the cars. All they've done is network people with cars. Okay, Airbnb, they don't own the accommodation, they don't own any of the rooms. All they've done is network people who have rooms, and that's what G4 is that we're networking guitar teachers. So the people will start to think of, where do I get a guitar teacher? Go through G4, and my whole concept is to keep up with the technology, that we're always pushing forward on the technology and really riding that curve. So we know that when things happen, we'll be right there and ready. And one of the things that I'm pretty confident is going to happen is that to make the online transition, you need a system of teaching. It can't just be random lessons. And so as we really prepare all those materials and we have everything in place, we're only a small part of the way, but it'll be very easy for people who become a member of G4. Let's say they join you as a member. In the future, they're not necessarily people in your area, and they're not necessarily people who want to come to you for lessons every week. They're just people who subscribe to G4 through you as a licensee, and that way they pay $99 a month, and they get access to all the G4 materials. They get access to videos and etc. But they also get to hook in with you for say a hangout every week or every month or whatever they want to do. Whenever they want to tune in, we can have all sorts of hangouts, different workshops. So they get access to a whole pool of resources rather than just the old-fashioned one-on-one half-an-hour lesson each week. Which is a dinosaur, which is going to die eventually, because there's just too much available to people to be paying somebody $50 a lesson for half an hour of their time, who's unorganized, has no resources, no materials. People are just not going to do it for much longer. So just on that point, which I'll just sort of wrap up on this thing, but in Australia, and I don't know if it's going on in America, is there much outcry amongst taxi drivers over Uber in the US?
I haven't heard anything.
I've heard, I mean, just some cities, some taxi companies are trying to petition cities to outlaw Uber. I'm not sure if that's happening here in Oxnard. I've seen some people's vehicles with the Uber sign on it. It's not very prevalent. I don't think I would have even noticed it unless I saw it on a Facebook ad where it showed, make money with Uber. And then I started to get in tune with what I was seeing out there on the roads. Oh, that's what Uber means. I thought maybe they were just like fans of German language or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Learn German. Yeah, well, in Australia, we've got, in the state that I'm in, Uber drivers, they're illegal, so they're not allowed to drive. But guess what? Uber are paying all the fines. They paid $1.7 million in fines, so it doesn't matter, because Uber are just going to keep paying those fines. In the other states, there's still a lot of sort of argument, but the taxi drivers, there's actual physical clashes between taxi drivers and Uber drivers going on in Australia. And this is not just Australia, this is around the world. They're actually severely hurting the taxi industry. Now, this is, and maybe I'm going to get shot for this, but the fact is the taxi industry has been very poorly run for a long time. And so as soon as something like Uber came along, taxis in Australia are expensive, they're inconvenient, the drivers are often grumpy and not friendly type people. you know, and you know, I've got taxis from the airport here, and you know, I live literally 5 minutes from the airport. So when I get in a taxi, the taxi drivers are angry with me because I live so close. They're really annoyed. It's like, well, sorry, mate, but I don't have any choice. You know, I live close. That's just how it is. I'm happy to give you a tip.
Uber instead. I'll just call Uber. I'm fine with that. As a matter of fact, there goes one right there. Oh, hey, hold on.
Exactly, and that's exactly how I feel. I don't want to deal with these guys. You know, I don't want to deal with their grumpiness. I just want to, you know, get into a cab, pleasant. It doesn't matter whether I go 5 minutes or 5 hours, and you know, if you don't like doing those kind of trips, then just say we don't drive, or we have a minimum fare. You know, whatever you want to do, I don't care. Just don't be angry with me because I want to get a taxi from the airport to my home. So
technology is just changing. I mean, I'm sure that way back when cameras first started coming out, when you actually, you know, you can take a picture, you got this gigantic flash thing that just flashes over, and then these people who are making these painted portraits for a living saying, oh, that'll never catch on, and then when it starts catching on, say, that's my living.
Yes.
You know, it's just technology is changing. I mean, you change with the times, or you know, you could go to war about it, which is what Uber is facing right now. But I mean, how far are you going to take this? You know, times are changing.
Eventually, it catches up with you. Yeah. Eventually, you can fight it and fight it and fight it, but eventually, it takes over. It's just the way technology moves forward. It's moved forward. You know, people don't realize that they tried to stop the printing press. Back in the 1600s, they tried to. You know, it was they were actually, it was illegal, and anyone caught printing was actually hanged, sentenced to death.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That was the printing press. The car was the same. The car was made illegal, and the reason that the car industry boomed in America was because it actually started in the UK. The UK was the dominating force for the car industry, except they over-regulated it and made it so hard for people to own cars that it didn't happen in England. The Americans took a hold of it, and the rest is history.
Right.
Yeah, it's everything from electricity. They tried to kill electricity. You name it. Every big breakthrough. The internet, it was the same. You know, Google, Facebook. All along the line, they've been trying to stop technology, and they don't stop it. They slow it down, maybe a fraction, but they don't stop it. So, okay, cool. So let me talk about the small town situation, just so we can have a look at the possibilities for where you are, Roger. Obviously, you know, teaching, you've got a certain population. What is your population, by the way?
About 4,500 people.
Okay, all right. So in that population, you know, you're really at best at any given time are going to probably have about 20 students. That would be, I think, probably the best you're going to have. You get a higher percentage in small towns compared to the city because a couple of reasons. One, you don't have competition usually. You said you do have one competitor, but also people have less options for doing things. So, you know, you're not going to have all these other things. You know, in a city, there's kids especially can do 100 different activities, whereas in a small town they don't have many options. So they got to take they choose to do guitar because, you know, there's nobody teaching karate or, you know, doing whatever.
Cow tipping is just not as exciting as it used to be. So if all you got is a bunch of cows and you push over a couple of cows, dude, what's next? Guitar lessons. So let's go for that instead.
Exactly. And cow tipping is pretty exciting, but it's just, yeah, there's a point. So yeah, I would really say that unless you can do something really amazing in your town, which is not out of the question, just to give you an idea, where I started the best G4 guitar school was in a suburb of Sydney called Northbridge. It's actually a very wealthy area. It's the third wealthiest area in Australia. But the population, because it's wealthy, is small. Wealthy people just own bigger properties. They don't live in apartments. So these are all big waterfront homes and mostly big homes. So the population that I served was about 7,000 people. So that which was a small population. Now I did get students come from the other areas, but I still had the majority of my students, probably 80%. You know, it's a rough number. came from that immediate suburb. But I think one of the factors in my the rent on my side was the fact that their money was never an issue for these people, so they weren't looking for saving money and saying, oh, we've got to do this or this. If they wanted to do it, they did it. That simple. So that certainly helped. But what it did show me was the power of community, because most of the students I had knew each other in one way or another. Either they knew someone who knew someone. They either went to the same school, or their parents knew each other through whatever. And they were never more than a street or two away most of the time. So what happened was the word about what I was doing spread very quickly in the community, and so the referral rate was the best I'd seen in my whole career at that point. It was like, wow, I can't believe the number of referrals coming through. So it was kind of like I rode into town. I did something special because nobody knew me there. My other school was on the other side of Sydney, and I couldn't open near my other school. I sold it to my brother, and part of my agreement, and just out of respect, I wouldn't do it, go into competition to him. So I opened on the other side of town. This was 2 years after I'd sold, by the way, and I'd set up and did the whole thing, and yeah, it was a little bit slow in the beginning, but then there was just a point where it just rocketed, and it was just the word getting around, and doing group lessons played a big part in it as well. So anyway, my point is that there is the possibility there that you could get 40 or 50 students. That's not out of the question if you did something special in town, but it's going to be difficult. I know we have one of our teachers, Shane, who's operating in Australia, in Griffith, and I'll just tell you what the population of Griffith, New South compares. Okay, so he's got 27,000 where he is, so he's got a few more than you, but it's still by all means a small population, and he's doing really well. I think he's up to the last count somewhere 20 something students. So the potential to me is there, but yeah, you got to do something special. Now the other thing that you can do is obviously go to other towns. So you do 1 day a week in different towns. You don't want to just travel there for 1 or 2 students, although you might have to in the beginning. And then what you can do is, when you find the town that's the best for you, you focus on that. So you might drop the other towns. You may or may not. It's up to you. But then what you do is you find the town where you're going to get the best return for your time. Now, if you love living where you are, that's great. You might have to do the drive. But if you're happy to move, be flexible, then you might move to the other town. It's up to you what you do. It's all about lifestyle preferences and the whole thing. But they're the kind of options for as far as setting up physical teaching. So the next thing is obviously the online, moving to the online side of your business. Now, I think online teaching itself is still fairly hard, still fairly competitive. There's a lot of guys out there trying to teach privately online. Teaching groups is even harder, I think, online, just because of this is a group scenario, this is working, this is good, but if we've got guitars in our hand, I can't hear what all you're doing. It's virtually impossible without just stopping each one of you, telling the other two to be quiet and just listening to one, and that's going to be quite time consuming and not efficient. So I don't think that we're there in that respect yet. So I think the online thing is growing and will happen, and there are people who will learn online with you privately, and it'll work okay. But I really think where, if you want to make money online, that the market is in through affiliate products, and that's setting yourself up, making your website more and more attractive for people to want to purchase products through you. And this is really part of what I want to do with everyone is get so that you have the ability to sell products. But I really want to keep it so that we're selling products that are totally in line with who we are and what we're doing. For example, I know Ken is talking to a guy in California who composes music for guitar students, like ensembles. And so that's something that he could sell through his site. If he puts it on his site, it may or may not be popular. That this particular guy's had not had much success with selling his stuff, and that doesn't mean that it won't sell. It just means he doesn't probably know how to sell it or where to sell it, but we've got the right audience. And so even if you sort of said to your students, all right, there's a bunch of music here, $10, $20, whatever, you can buy the whole thing, and that way you can use it for your lessons. You will find that your students, in many cases, especially if it's part of your program, will happily pay it to buy that material. But more, what I'm looking on is being able to do it on a network scale and beyond that as well. So, for instance, yeah, if one of you comes up with a product that you make, then let's sell it across the network. You know, everybody can then put it onto their website and sell it, because it's going to be something that we have to agree to. I would never tell anyone to sell anything that they don't agree with. But if you make something that works well with the G4 program, something that we endorse, then yeah, put it on your website and let every other guy know, and then do a 50-50 split, so that they get 50%, you get 50%, and make it a digital product. You can do physical products as well. Perhaps you make your own brand of footstool, or you know, you make a nice chair for people to play guitar on. Who knows? There's so many things you can do. You know, it's unlimited, as Amazon have discovered, right? So this is what we need to start thinking. We need to start thinking, what can we do for beginner guitar students, especially beginner to intermediate guitar students? What can we do to offer them things that they would want, and then start to leverage that through our websites, so that every person who visits your website becomes a potential customer and a potential long-term customer. Because that's what people really want today, is they don't want the clutter. There's a billion choices out there for anything, and they don't want the billion choices. They want someone to make those choices for them a lot of the time. They want you to limit their choices down to what they really want. That's what Google search is all about. Google limits the returns based on what they think you're interested in, based on your search, based on what they know about you. And that's why people like Google. That's why Google has become Google. It's because it limits our choices down to the things that they think that we're looking for. It answers our questions. So that's what I think personally. So I'm going to throw to you guys, the Brains Trust. I'll start with you, Ken. Anything you could add to this conversation?
Yeah, I do. Rosamond is 14,000 people. That's where I had my first studio. And 14,000 people is not very big, but we were able to build up the studio to about 40 plus students in a rather short period of time, like maybe in about a year. And I think some of the things that made it that successful in that short period of time was, as you said, when you're in a small town and cow tipping is getting old, when something new comes around, well, word gets around. You see, if anybody wanted to have a music lesson in Rosamond, they had to travel all the way down to Lancaster. Lancaster is not necessarily that far away, but when you have something that they want right there in town, then that's exactly where they're going to go. They're going to go right to me, and that's what I was counting on. So I started off with doing flyers. That's why I'm such a big believer in it, because I know it works. I just didn't do it as many flyers as I could have to start my other branch here in Oxnard. But that's a long story. I digressed back to what we're saying. Another thing that was good that Roger could possibly do. So before I say that, Roger, how many students do you have right now?
I don't have any. I was teaching one a friend's kid bass, but I don't have any students right now. I just started the G4 program and just started the advertising, so I'm at zero right this minute.
I see. I guess the main thing is to just simply get rolling with doing flyers. That's hard. I know it's hard. I walk like about between 7 and 10 miles a day putting out flyers myself. And the guy that I have helping me, well, he's a good friend, but he's kind of flaky, and he's in and out of like alcohol and drugs and stuff like that. I'm trying to be a good friend to him and stuff. But anyway, I am putting out flyers, and that's what I did in that tiny town, 14,000 people, which is still bigger than your town. But as I was targeting certain neighborhoods, I think maybe the neighborhoods that I might have been targeting maybe 5,000 of the population, actually. So there were some parts of Rosamond that I didn't really touch, just because, well, I didn't really want to have folks that were interested in their addictions more than guitar lessons. So
Mm-hmm.
I just focused in on the nicer neighborhoods. So when I did that, I started getting some students, maybe like about 5 students, 10 students, and then from those 10 students, I put out yard signs inside of the yards. And so as people were walking their dogs in the evening, they go by everybody's yard and they see, oh, that's that that's that flyer I saw on my door the other day, but it's in somebody's yard now, huh? Walk down a couple more doors, there's that sign again. And then all of a sudden, everybody's seeing my sign everywhere, and literally became everywhere. Because when you're in a town, that size, and you have in the beginning 10 students and 20 students, and then they all have yard signs because my students were happy to put up yard signs because they liked us, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Then it started to roll a little bit more. Now we started to get referrals from seeing a yard sign, and I gave incentives to the parents. Said if you put a yard sign in your yard, and somebody mentions that they see your yard sign, I will give you $25 off for the next month. And that was a pretty good incentive. People like that and say, "Oh man, you mean that if I can get like about 4 or 5 students, I can have like an entire month for free?" And it's like, dude, I would be so happy to give you free lessons if you keep on giving me students. So that really worked well for me. Is doing the yard signs. It's like a referral practically. And yard
Yep.
signs are not necessarily that expensive. I can't remember exactly how much it was that I spent, but I mean, when you buy it in bulk, the price goes down. But I realize the whole thing about it is just getting started. Um, for me, printing it costs like say the formula for getting a student is 1,000 flyers and you'll get a student, and that's pretty consistent. I've got like about 10,000 flyers out so far, maybe a little bit more, maybe 11,000, and I have 11 students right now. Maybe I think maybe 3 of them might have been previous students, but still, I mean, as I put out more students, I'll probably end up getting more to come because now it's back to school time. So I'll probably see that it balance out a little bit more so that I'm getting 1,000 per student that I actually worked for during this flyer campaign. But for you to just simply get started, it costs me about $25 per student. So that means 1,000 flyers cost me $25. That means I'm spending $25 per student. And how do I get it that cheap? Well, I'm printing my own flyers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using a certain type of paper. I am using on one sheet, one 8.5 by 11 sheet. I'm printing out 6 flyers each and getting those cut. And so I've drastically reduced the amount of money that I'm putting into this by doing all those things, plus using low ink and draft quality printing. And I know that everybody loves to have a nice looking flyer. And I'm not saying that my flyer isn't looking nice, because if you looked at it really closely, you can see a little bit grainy picture on the graphic I have for the girl. You ain't gonna be able to see this, but there's the girl. Well, she's not in perfect detail, but who cares? I mean, the detail that is on there that's important is guitar school. $99 special. That is all up there, and people can see it. And the font on there is still looking pretty good. And if it's like a grandma who can't see that well, she's that interested for lessons for her grandchild. She's going to find her reading classes. So 6 per sheet saves money. Using draft quality and low print, low ink in the advanced settings saves you money. I was able to I remember David Mins, and he's meticulous about all the records that he keeps. I mean, it's mind-numbing how meticulous he is. He says that he spends about 15 cents per door hanger. I spend about 2.66 cents per door hanger. Well, actually, it's not a door hanger, but it's a flyer. But anyway, that's quite a bit of difference. So really, flyers really does work. It just takes a lot of effort. I've begun the way that I ended up getting so excited about flyers is that I learned to love the thing that I hate. I hate waking up in the morning real early, but I love it because I know I'm going to get results. I know I'm going to get students. I'm listening to audiobooks like about 2.5 or 3 hours a day, just listening to audiobooks, filling my mind with all this information. Now I love going out. I can't wait to go out. It's just really, really good. If I can give you any type of advice, flyers really do work. You just have to work hard at it, and you don't have to spend that much money. So for your population, I don't know, you might be able to get 10, 20, 30 students, but who knows? Maybe you can get even more than that. It's just a matter of being consistent and working hard at it.
Yep. That's it. That's great, Ken, and you can see how inspired Ken is because he's putting in the hours, he's putting in the work, he's doing the flyers, but he knows where it's all heading. And if you keep on that path, again, it's about building platforms, things like putting the yard signs. That's taking the students you have now and leveraging them, not just to use them for your own benefit, but to actually involve them in the growth of your school, because they benefit when your school grows. If you go out of business in 6 months, you're going to have a lot of disappointed students on your hands. So you want your school to grow, you want it to be strong, you want it to be profitable. These are something with a lot of businesses that run poorly. They forget that your customers actually want you to do well because they want you to be in business and they want you to be able to give them more. As G4 grows, as I make more money flows in, then I'm able to do more for you guys. I've got a lot more that I can bring on board as we grow. As you will keep seeing, it'll keep improving. So really important to be strong and profitable. I'll just quickly go because we are a little bit over time. But Monty, is there anything you want to add? Feel free to throw in.
Actually, I had a question about what we were doing with the websites. We were putting the G4 method on for sale for $47, and we have to add a button on our website. I actually forget how to do that. I think the last time I had to watch a video because I'm pretty computer illiterate. But,
that's okay. The good news is you don't have to do anything other than send me a PayPal button, a PayPal link. Sorry, the email link, not the HTML code, but the email link. So if you make your button in PayPal, and if you're unsure about, you know how to do that, make a PayPal button.
No. I mean, okay. I've obviously done it before. Somehow the stars aligned and I got it done, but I forget. That was months ago.
Just talk to my good friend Google, and he'll tell you how to do it. Right? Go to Google or YouTube, search for how to make a PayPal button, and there'll be a million people who want to help you.
I didn't know if there's any G4 videos or anything that you've done.
There is some G4 steps, or if you go to the website. But if you can't find it, just go to the website. If you can't find it, email me, and I'll find it and send it through to you. But the instructions are there, how to make it all up. It's in the admin section, so you should find it pretty easily. And send me, once you made the button and the email link, send it to me, and then I'll add it to the page. You don't have to do anything else.
Cool. Sounds good.
Excellent.
And I like that yard sign idea. I'm going to have to
that's
incorporate that.
Yeah, it worked for me. It was really that's when we really started to take off. It was like I could actually scale back on the flyers. I just let the referrals start to roll in just from the signs. That's something that I would like to do. Now here in Oxnard, I've got about 11 students so far. It might be time to invest in that. But of course, right now it's so difficult to even find the money to buy groceries right now, to be honest with you. So, but that is on the radar for sure. And eventually, I'll stop eating rice and beans and tuna fish. I can actually put that into a little bit more, other things that'll be.
Well, that part of that. Remember these times, Ken, because it's the lean times that you work the hardest. When things start to get easy, that's the danger time. Actually, that's when you fall into your comfort zone. You don't have to work so hard this week. Yeah. It's okay. I've got plenty of experience.
All I need is just to have some sort of emergency or disaster always in my face to keep myself motivated. And,
well, I do it. I keep in my mind this sense of urgency. I don't live my whole life that way, but what I do is that I don't allow myself to get into this zone of it's okay, because it's very easy to slip into. Things are cruising, I've got plenty of stuff going on, but I don't. I wake up every morning with the idea. I am very motivated, though, because it becomes exciting. As things grow, you do become more excited about it. It's just the nature of the beast. So.
I remember Great by Choice, that book. They were all the 10X companies. They were all like, the owners. They were always afraid of the next disaster coming. And I suppose having that type of attitude would keep you, making sure that you're staying on top of things. And so maybe I ought to have that attitude and develop that attitude, although I'd rather not be rule eccentric like some of the guys inside of the book. But it's a good idea to stay motivated like that.
Always be hungry. Always be hungry.
There's one quick question I have. What is that? What is the formula for the population for Oxnard is over 200,000. What do you think the potential is for a population of 200,000?
1,000 students. It's possible.
I see.
Okay, it's plenty of potential. Because the thing is, we can sort of look at industry averages and things and so forth, but everything that I did, I found that in any industry you can really look at it. There's that from reading the 10X book. These are companies that you take an airline like Southwest, which was 40, 50 times the average in their industry, right? Unbelievable. People said there's no money in airlines, and here they are. They just blew out every concept in the book. So I think in anything you can take it to a much higher limit. I mean, people are looking for the exciting thing to do. They're looking for the place to go, and there's usually in most areas there's a restaurant that's just booked out every night. People are lined out the door. Meanwhile, there's 10 restaurants down around the corner whose food is reasonably good, who flat out they got 2 tables booked. That's it. So when you find that special thing and you do it. And that's really what I'm trying to focus with G4, because it starts with here. It starts with your mind. It starts with that seeing that vision of this can be huge. If you go to the Bill Gates idea of everyone is going to have a computer on their desktop. When he said that, only businesses really had computers. People weren't using them personally, right? So people can say, oh yeah, of course that's normal. Everyone saw that coming. No, they didn't. When he made that statement, people didn't see that coming. People were in the mind that IBM, business, computers were all about business. So I took that same sort of attitude with guitar. Everyone will have a guitar in their hand. Everyone will be learning guitar. Every kid should learn guitar. That's my kind of thinking. Every kid wants to learn guitar. Everybody wants to learn guitar. And you think about it. How many people do you talk to that as soon as you say you play guitar? I just went to my accountant yesterday, and I've got a new accountant because the other guy's gone overseas, and he said to me, oh, so you're a guitar player? I said, yeah. He said, I've always wanted to play guitar. Of course you do. Everyone wants to play guitar. It's just, that's the world I live in. Everyone wants to play guitar. So when you start taking that concept, it almost becomes like a religion, where you're out there trying to convert everyone that you can. Because I don't know any downside to guitar, learning guitar. I don't know any negative side effects, so why wouldn't I want everyone to play guitar? This is the best thing you can do. So yeah, go out there and preach it. Get out there and
amen, preach.
Amen. Big guitar.
Amen, brother.
That's right.
That's it. Start slapping everyone, high fives. Right, get out there like the preacher man. Get on the street, walk down the main street, and say, "Guitar has arrived. G4 is here. Yes, you will join."
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Nice.
All right, so it's definitely a good thing. We know. Look, we're here. None of us here are 22. We've all been around a few years, and we love guitar. It's been our life, and it will probably go to us to the grave. That's just once you're on board, it's very hard to give up guitar. You know, it takes a while to get you there, but once you're there, it's very hard to turn back. There's it's a lifetime
like this in my casket. It's not like this. My casket can be buried like this.
That's it. Exactly. Okay, so yeah, just got to wrap up. Roger, did you want to throw any last words?
Nope. I just got to get out there and pass out more flyers and hit the pavement. So.
Excellent.
And make yard signs.
Just so you guys know, I'm going to hook up at this time each week. So if you want to join me any week, feel free. It's just that there's a couple of other guys that want to come at this time, and so I'll just you don't have to be here every week. It's up to you. But if you want to be here, I'll be here every week at this time.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Great.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks a lot, David. Bye,
See
guys.
you. Bye.
Take care.